In 1720, a convicted killer controlled France's entire money supply. He made people rich. Then he erased them. 300 years later, we built the same machine again. This is the story of the first modern financial bubble. Not the first bad investment. The first time an entire society became addicted to paper wealth. And the man behind it wasn't a king. He was a gambler, a fugitive, a financial genius. His name was John Law. And if his story feels uncomfortably modern while you're watching this, that's because it is. France looked powerful from the outside. Inside, it was rotting. Louis XIV had spent 70 years turning the country into a monument to himself. Versailles, endless wars, endless luxury, endless debt. By the time he died, the French government was effectively broke. Not economic downturn broke. Not markets are nervous broke. Catastrophically broke. The state was melting royal gold furniture to pay soldiers. Taxes weren't enough. Gold reserves were drying up. Creditors were panicking. And the new king was 8 years old. France didn't need reform anymore. It needed rescue. That's when John Law arrived. John Law was born in Edinburgh in 1671. His father was a goldsmith, which at the time meant banker. Law grew up around money. But more importantly, he grew up around probability. As a young man, he became obsessed with gambling. Not casually, scientifically. Before modern economics existed, before probability theory was properly formalized, John Law had already figured out how odds controlled human behavior. He wasn't just lucky. He understood systems, which made him extremely dangerous. By his 20s, he was one of the most successful gamblers in Europe. Then in 1694, he killed a man in a duel over a woman. He was arrested, convicted, sentenced to death. And then he escaped prison. He escaped prison. For the next 20 years, Law drifted across Europe, gambling, reading, writing, watching governments fail. And during those years, he developed an idea that sounded insane at the time. He believed gold was psychologically valuable, not inherently valuable. And if people could be convinced to trust paper instead of metal, a government could create wealth almost infinitely. Most countries rejected him immediately. France didn't. France was desperate. Desperate people approve ideas that stable societies laugh at. Law's proposal to France was simple. Create a national bank. Issue paper money. Back it with government authority instead of gold. Increase the money supply. Restart the economy. Today, this sounds normal. In 1716, it sounded revolutionary. The French regent approved it. Law opened the Banque Générale. Paper banknotes entered circulation. And for a while, everything improved. Trade accelerated. Confidence returned. Businesses reopened. The economy started breathing again. And this is the part people misunderstand about bubbles. They usually begin with something real. That's why intelligent people get trapped inside them. John Law wasn't selling fantasy yet. At first, the system actually worked. Then success changed him. Or maybe success revealed him. In 1717, Law took control of the Mississippi Company, which held trading rights over French Louisiana. Louisiana was mostly undeveloped wilderness. Law described it like a financial paradise. Gold, resources, unlimited opportunity. He flooded Paris with propaganda, pamphlets, rumors, exaggerated success stories. At one point, he reportedly hired people in costumes to pose as exotic Louisiana natives and march through Paris. Not because it was true, because spectacle sells better than truth. It always has. Then he opened the investment to the public, and Paris lost its mind. The stock launched at 500 livres. Then it doubled. Then doubled again. Then exploded. Within months, shares reached 10,000 livres. Early investors became unimaginably rich. The word millionaire entered popular language during this exact moment. That's how violently wealth was appearing. Paris transformed. Rue Quincampoix, the narrow street where law's system operated, became something the world had never really seen before, a modern speculative market. People flooded the streets day and night. Merchants abandoned businesses to trade shares. Servants became wealthy. Aristocrats became addicted. One story from the period describes a hunchback renting out his back as a writing desk for traders signing contracts. That detail matters, because bubbles always look ridiculous in hindsight. But inside the moment, they feel inevitable. That's why people surrender to them. John Law became the most powerful financial figure in France. He controlled the national bank, the money supply government debt, and the hottest asset in Europe all simultaneously. There are very few moments in history where one man held that much financial influence, and almost none end well. The collapse didn't begin with panic. It began with doubt. A few wealthy investors quietly started converting paper profits into gold. Then more followed. Law understood the danger immediately, because his system depended on belief. The moment too many people demanded real assets instead of paper claims, the illusion would break. So he escalated. Gold ownership was restricted. Paper money kept printing. And to keep stock prices alive, Law's bank began buying shares using newly created banknotes, which pushed prices higher, which required more money printing, which pushed prices higher again. A financial system feeding itself. By early 1720, roughly 3 billion livres in paper currency existed in France. The gold reserves backing it were nowhere close. The gap between perception and reality had become fatal. Then confidence cracked. And once confidence breaks in a leveraged system, collapse becomes mathematical. The stock crashed. From 10,000 livres back to 500. 95% erased. Riots spread across Paris. Crowds stormed the bank. People died trying to withdraw money that no longer existed. And John Law, the man who had once controlled the financial heartbeat of France, fled the country in disguise. Not as a visionary, not as a hero, as a liability. What John Law built disappeared centuries ago. The psychology didn't. That's the uncomfortable part. Because every major bubble follows the same emotional sequence. A new opportunity appears. Early believers get rich. Society mistakes rising prices for intelligence. Skepticism becomes socially expensive. And eventually people stop asking whether the thing has value and start asking how rich it can make them. That pattern survived. The South Sea Bubble Railroad speculation, the dot-com era, the housing market, crypto. Different technology, different vocabulary, same human behavior. In 1720, people believed paper wealth could expand forever because the system was different now. 300 years later, that sentence still destroys people. John Law died in Venice in 1729. Broke, exiled, playing cards for money. The man who once controlled the French economy died as a wandering gambler again. And maybe that's fitting, because his real invention wasn't paper currency. It was something much more durable, the modern financial bubble. A system powered by optimism, amplified by greed, and held together by belief. Until reality arrives. And when it does, it arrives all at once. The next bubble is already forming somewhere. The only question is whether people will recognize it before the collapse or after.